Panther people, what up? Is it me or is there a lot of pressure on Bryce Young? Finally watch Panthers post to Phil Perkins. Thanks for joining us. I know it's been a minute. I was doing some renovations in my house, and then I went a little date night with the wife. First time in 4 years. We went somewhere overnight without the kid. But that's enough about me. Let's talk about our Carolina Panthers right now. I don't believe in draft grades. I do not. I think I saw a lot of C's. C's get degrees, though. Do they get NFC South championships? Maybe not. But C's get degrees. And also, at last time I checked, last year's draft class got an AA plus, and so did our head coaching staff, which is filled with all-stars, apparently. And we know how that turned out. So really, we're going to see how these draft picks fill in and how they fit with this team, with this coaching staff, once this training camp in the next couple of months. So in the meantime, let's talk about next year's draft. Yeah, that's right. I'm jumping ahead. The way too early 2025 mock draft. And it's not so much who is in the players at the top, but who's picking at the top. And according to Vegas or whoever, I don't know if they just copy and paste who the draft picks were this year in terms of which teams are picking, and then just fast forward into the next year after that. But for some reason, the Carolina Panthers are picking first overall 3 years in a row. Obviously, there was the year that they traded up to get Bryce Young. They weren't that far behind. And then they traded that pick, which ended up being Caleb Williams this year. Would the Panthers have finished first overall this year in the draft, as in the worst team in the NFL this year, if they had not traded for Bryce Young and just kept Sam Darnold or whoever, stopgap quarterback? I don't know. But the Carolina Panthers logo is going to be first overall 3 years in a row. This according to the 2025 way too early mock drafts. And it's not just, Walter Football or Tank Nation. It is every way too early mock draft, basically, except -1, I think, that has the Carolina Panthers picking first overall yet again. And this is without a trade. That means they organically sucked. And in no way do I think the Carolina Panthers are going to be, playoff contenders. I mean, you never know. I don't think anybody thought the Houston Texans would win the AFC South, let alone, go far and win a playoff game. Something that, some franchises like the Cleveland Browns hadn't done before Baker Mayfield's year for decades. So who knows? But I don't think that obviously the Panthers aren't going for a Super Bowl next year. Maybe the next year after that, hopefully, maybe not according to this way too early mock draft, that the Panthers would improve. And in 2026, actually, say the word compete, maybe with a small c. But whoever these people are making these way too early mock drafts and setting it up, the Panthers suck again. Bottom boy, we suck again. So I don't know who's, and they have them picking the defensive end Pierce at the University of Tennessee, and not a quarterback. Apparently next year's quarterback class is weak. But the reason why I talk about that, if the Panthers somehow are worse or just as bad this coming year, what are we thinking about with Bryce Young? Yeah, I'm talking about that right now. Yes, he's got every excuse in the book. Last year's coaching fiasco was an absolute debacle. It was not his fault. It is never a good thing for a quarterback to have two regimes in his first 2 years. But this one, at least with Dave Canales, looks like it is custom made for what Bryce Young, the quarterback from Alabama, does, not whatever Frank Reich and company. First of all, looks like Frank Reich and company weren't even on the same page coaching-wise. So how are you supposed to set up a plan for this quarterback who has a skill set that was not met? And it was, it was square hole, friggin' round peg situation with Frank Reich and company last year. And this year, it looks like Dave Canales at least is trying to do what is best for Bryce. Obviously, Xavier Legette, who is a physical freak, fast. It's his ball or nobody's. Basically, that's his mantra. That's what he's saying to the Carolina Panthers social media team. He grabs that ball. He's got those big country hands. He's a yak guy. He's like a supersized DJ Moore. And despite the fact that he was a 32nd overall pick in the first round, we're seeing all over the place. Obviously, it's the offseason, all about smoking that hopium. Him doing work. No tarp, just doing his thing, working on his routes. Him and Deontay Johnson are putting in work, try to get that separation. There's a stat going around that I believe when it comes to press coverage, nobody gained more yards than your own Xavier Legette. He's going to make everybody better. Will he elevate someone like Jonathan Mingo, or will Jonathan Mingo be kind of left to the sideline like Terrace Marshall Jr.? I don't know. Either way, he got himself a number one wide receiver. future number one wide receiver. Right now, Deontay Johnson is number one, just with the skill set that he brings and the quickness and just an element of wide receiver skill that just we hadn't seen before on this team. Adam Thielen, you got them as well. You got Tommy Tremble, who I still believe in. You got Jatavion Sanders, who's got the receiving skills. He's got the massive hands as well. I think that's his nickname. Like the space between his thumb and his index finger is like the distance between New York City and Toronto. It's like an 8-hour drive. He got Jonathan Brooks, the best running back in the class this year, coming off an ACL. But guys, ACLs are like a sprained shoulder now. Like they're not a big deal. People come back after an Achilles like in a year. It's not a big deal anymore. ACLs is not a problem to me. So he's beefing up the offensive line as well. Like let's not forget what they did in free agency with the interior offensive line and what's happening on the outside in terms of skill position players. And they picked up who was the running back they just picked up out of Seattle. They just picked someone, Rashad Penny. So Rashad Penny, who's a bit of a journeyman, had his time in Seattle with the Seahawks, obviously with Dave Canales, then with the Philadelphia Eagles, now he's with the Carolina Panthers. So there's going to be some competition in the running back group, no doubt. So it looks like Dave Canales is surrounding Bryce not just with like older talent and one type of skill. He's giving him every sort of Lego piece to try to build something beautiful. You know, he's got the possession wide receiver, Adam Thielen, the savvy vet. He's got the tenacious, dangerous Xavier Legette. Honestly, Deontay Johnson's a bit the same way, but he's the separator specialist. And then you got the home run hitter in Xavier Legette. You got Amir Smith-Marset, who's also that gadget play guy. You got Tommy Tremble. You got Jonathan Brooks, who I think is going to be our number one running back pretty darn soon. And then Rashad Penny, who's going to be a role player, but he's going to hopefully elevate and make guys like Chuba Hubbard better, Miles Sanders better, Raheem Blackshear better. You got a better offensive line. So if somehow the Panthers are picking first overall again next year, whose fault is it? Is it Dave Canales, who signed a longer-term deal than Bryce Young did? He's cheaper than Bryce Young. What's wrong with Bryce? What's wrong with Bryce? If they're picking first overall next year, it is something that Bryce did that's wrong. And already, it is May 9th, May 8th, and pressure's on Bryce already to perform. Like, honestly, like we haven't got the schedule yet, and we're going to do a schedule breakdown when it happens. The pressure is on Bryce. If they don't at least double the win total, pressure's not on Dave Canales. He's coming to scorched earth. He didn't pick Bryce Young. He didn't. Bryce Young's here. He's got to get us at least 4 wins. There are moments where it could have happened last year, but maybe with the weapons at his disposal, he's hardened now. He's been through it. You know, I drove down to Myrtle Beach with my family, and it was awful on the way there. Absolutely awful. It was supposed to be a 2-day trip. It became a 3-day trip. We're like, we're never doing this again. This is awful. The driving is the worst. And then on the way back, 2-day trip, seamless. Everyone's fine. No puke. So if Bryce Young's rookie year was that awful 3-day trip to Myrtle Beach, and you never do that again. That was the worst experience. It's awful. You know, we learned. We learned on the way. It literally was a journey. We learned on that journey. On the way back, we made the right decisions, and it was 2 days, and it was seamless. We flew down South Carolina again this year, but either way, you learned. So hopefully Bryce has learned from his rookie year, fix some bad habits that hopefully just are temporarily stuck with him last year, and he will not repeat them, especially with a good head coach, a communicator that Dave Canales seems to be. At least the coaching staff has some synergy. So I think once they have some synergy and they're on the same page, I think the trickle-down effect of Bryce Young will be better. But the pressure's already on, no doubt. The pressure's on. You're seeing C.J. Stroud doing his thing. He's doing, draft coverage. He's out in Japan watching Micah Parsons sumo wrestle people. And he's having a great time. He is everyone's favorite young quarterback right now. No team is hotter and sexier than the Houston Texans, but the Panthers are not. They are the ugly person at the ball right now. Nobody wants to dance with us. And that's, there's no expectations except, Bryce, you just can't screw up. You can't have a worse year than you did last year, especially with the talent around you. And if that happens, man, I hate to think about it because I think he's a great guy. I got his jersey. I believe in this guy. I don't want it to be a Zach Wilson situation where you trade him to a team that will just bury him in the depth chart and you get like a 6th-round pick from him. That is the worst. That is the worst. And especially if we're going to a draft year next year where, Shadur Saunders or Sanders or the Georgia quarterback, who does, honestly, I look at his face and I just think, what's that guy's name? The super long neck with the giraffe. I don't know. He's Daniel Jones. Like, he just reminds me of a Daniel Jones, and I don't need that. Carson Beck. Great quarterback name. but he just doesn't have the face. And there are studies about it. You look at a quarterback's face, basically, if they're not handsome, they're not good. And this guy's not handsome. So I'm not trusting. That draft class next year in terms of quarterbacks. And we also don't want to find ourselves in a situation where there are no quarterbacks and you're building a team around and waiting. And then we're right back to square one. You're building the team. You're waiting to plop a quarterback. And then you're just constantly in that rotation. I don't want to live in that world. I want to live in the world when the Panthers are maybe picking ninth. We're used to picking 8th or 9th last couple of years. Give me that. Don't give me first overall, because that means Bryce sucked, and then we have to look for another quarterback, and we're not a veteran quarterback away. It is back to a rookie quarterback. Is it a rookie quarterback that Dave Canales would want? I don't know. Next year's draft class is no good. Is the year after that better? Maybe. Maybe a Joe Burrow pops up, and then that's spectacular. But I don't want to live in that world. But there's no doubt. Pressure's on Bryce Young. Do you think pressure's on Bryce Young? What does he have to do to gain your confidence back if you were off the Bryce Young train after like week 5 last year? Let me know. Like, subscribe. See you guys soon.